Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Tech Beat, where leaders learn, innovate, and grow. Super excited to be coming to you today with my friend Garrett Openshaw of Moonify. I'm going to bring Garrett up with us here in just a couple of minutes. I did want to quickly do a few announcements. First of all, I'm Earl Foote, founder, CEO of Nexus IT. Nexus IT is an outsourced IT support and cybersecurity firm based here in northern Utah and servicing a nationwide footprint. Let's see. This podcast Tech Beat is now syndicated across all major podcast platforms. So look us up there, subscribe. We'd love your support. Hopefully, these segments are valuable to leaders and entrepreneurs and people who are building anything that you're building right now. Obviously, with the audio format across the podcast platforms, you can listen to us wherever you are at on the go. I did want to mention we have some, Garrett and I will do some question and answer towards the end of our segment here. So if you have any questions you want to ask Garrett about his venture, about the interesting things that they're doing in Web3. You're going to learn some interesting things about that today. Feel free to post those in whatever platform you join us from. Garrett and I will do our best to keep an eye on those and get to those. Quickly, on the topic of Web3, Nexus IT is partnering alongside Utah Business and Scott Paul to produce Cryptopia on May 26th, coming up here in just about a month. You can get your tickets at cryptopiaslc.xyz. We do have a discount code. That discount code is Nexus22, all caps, Nexus, Nexus, 22, all one word. That's a 10% discount to get your tickets to Cryptopia. I know Garrett's going to be there. Actually, he's going to be a panelist. And by the way, my band 90 Proof, which is a band of all tech execs and founders, we'll be playing the after party that evening. That's all set up. The event is at Slopes Event Center in Draper, and the after party, I believe, is at Twist in downtown Salt Lake, if I'm not mistaken. We have a lot of really great guests coming up for Tech Beat in the coming months. My friend Bassam Salem from Atlas RTX, founder CEO over there. Giselle Namadi from ILO. Johnny Hanna, co-founder, CEO at Homey. Tim Cooley, author and executive director at Park City Angels. James Jensen, founder and CEO of Jump and the creator of The Void. Garrett Clark and John Bowers from Silicon Slopes. Tara Spalding, managing director of Boom Startups, and Sid Tetro, CEO of Brandless, will all be joining me in the coming weeks and months. So keep an eye out for those announcements. All right, so let's get down to it. The man of the hour today, my esteemed guest, Garrett Openshaw, started off his career in manufacturing in China in the late 90s and early 2000s. In 2004, he started a TV production company in China. The first big TV event was an event he produced with pro skater Danny Wei, where he jumped over the Great Wall of China. That's insane, Garrett. The company became the exclusive licensee of all CBS Paramount formats for China. In 2013, his family moved back to the States, where Garrett worked in the family business. And in March of 2021, Moonify was born. They've been in development since and are just about to launch in May. So let me bring up Garrett here. Garrett, welcome, my friend.
Thank you. So good to be here. I've been looking forward to this for 6 months, Earl.
Super glad to have you here on Tech Beat, man. Garrett, I know you guys are doing some really interesting things. This whole Web3, crypto, blockchain sort of space is, there's so much insane innovation happening right now and happening at a really crazy pace. And so maybe let's just start off by telling us a little bit about what Moonify is about and how you're creating community with Moonify and why that's important to you as a founder.
Okay, a lot to unpack there. So maybe I'll start with what Moonify is, what we're doing, and then get to the community stuff. So Moonify is a Web3 social media platform. So we are a community-owned social media platform built for creators, and we focus on finance. And so primarily in helping people to understand investments, how to invest. So our content is primarily focused on that. We've got a lot of influencers, particularly from the Twitter sphere, who are part of the team and part of our kind of core development team on Moonify. And so we kind of created a platform to give them more tools to better have ownership of their own community, of their own being able to monetize their community. Web3 is really essentially what it is the ownership community. And so it allows people to have ownership and to transfer value across the internet. And I mean, that's kind of the short version of it. So with Moonify, our interface looks similar to a traditional social media platform, but the incentives are very different. So we've developed an incentive system where the community has ownership, meaning they have governance and control and make the decisions about the directions that the platform go and what functions the app has, as well as the revenue. The profit sharing goes to the community and control of the data. And so rather than having Web 2 social medias where they leverage your data to sell it to Coca-Cola so that they can send a specific advertisement directly to you, the community owns all of that data, and how they utilize it is up to them. So if they want to sell it, they have the opportunity to do that. If they don't, then it stays private. And if they want to just sell kind of, because we're focused on finance, primarily investments, and we're starting more in the crypto space because that's kind of where our roots are. And so in crypto investments, you kind of nailed it, that innovation is happening so quickly there. And also people don't know, everybody's interested in it. Everybody seems to be at least crypto curious at this point. Want to understand what's an NFT, what is crypto, how does it work, but it's also a pretty scary asset class for a lot of people. It's had a bad rep over time for it's a way for people to launder money, is what you hear a lot of, or other things that are really pretty negative about it. But there's a lot of really amazing innovation and a lot of, and I'm sure you see this in the security side of things too. There's a lot of security innovation coming through blockchain and cryptocurrencies as well to really help protect people against those things that have traditionally always been part of finance.
Yeah, so much, definitely. So, Garrett, this whole concept, I think a lot of guests are probably saying, well, community-owned venture, right? How does this all work out? And technically, I know we talked, that technically Moonify is not a DAO, but you've built this community-owned structure that is really, quite new. I realize there are some other ventures that are, similar, but what's kind of I know that building community for you, and you mentioned to me that one of your life missions really is to create millions of millionaires through this platform, right? So I know you're a guy that community is really important for, that making positive impact is really important for. Maybe tell us a little bit about just that kind of genesis and why you all decided to go this route, and how you envision that playing out, because this is it's a whole new space. Like it's very few ventures are doing something similar to this right now.
Yeah. So a couple of things are why we went that direction. And then again, I'll go to community first, since, we've talked about that quite a bit and it's really important to us. So I guess the first thing that's really important is to kind of define what a community is. And so the way that I define it, and putting it into words sometimes is a little bit difficult, but a group of people coming together to further a shared value is how I would kind of define what I think a community is. And that shared value could really be anything. It could be a religious value. It could be a financial goal. It could be a political goal. It could be really, it could be people who like hats, right? Like there's just a lot of communities, right? There's a pretty good beard community out there too, right?
There's a lot of communities around this. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. There really are, and it's not something that's self-evident as to why that is a communal thing, but it really brings people together whenever you have some form of a shared value. And so that's kind of what we have found, is that if you're trying to share value, then you have to have shared values, right? And so one of the things as a community owned platform, because we're focused on finance, so we saw a lot of things happening, particularly with COVID, that kind of drove us to this. The first thing is that people were locked up inside their houses and they didn't have community, and things kind of fell apart, like mentally and emotionally and socially. And you just saw like all this garbage come out. And so one of the reasons that we feel that happened is because people don't have the social community. So there's not really a social contract to maintain, where there is an implied social contract anytime you have a shared value system, you know.
Yeah, totally.
And you don't talk about Fight Club, like whatever it is, it's like there's some rules, right? Whatever those rules are. And so we just looked at it and thought, okay, there's a couple things happening here on the consumer side that are opportunities to grow something and build something together. One of them was that, the other thing that we saw was that investment became a sport that people play together with their friends online, right? And so that was kind of a big deal for us because we were already part of investment communities like micro communities, but we didn't know where to find some of the best information. And so we had to kind of really dig to do that. And we thought we could build tools to be able to help people to find that better if we could build a hub, right? The other thing that we saw is like when you start spending the kind of money that our federal government has been spending and seems to be continuing to spend without any increase of goods or services to absorb that additional money in the economy, that's the definition. Not does that cause inflation? That's a definition of inflation. More money in the economy without more goods and services to absorb it. And so what we saw was like, this is going to be dangerous, because everybody who earns a living, which is most people from a job or a salary or some form of income for work, is going to take a pay cut. And it's going to be significant. And it's not because the company that they work for is saying, I'm giving you $10 today, but I'm going to give you $9 tomorrow. But it's because $10 will only buy $9 of goods and services. And so we thought, we've got to find a way to help people to overcome that as well. And the only way to really do that in the economy today is through investments. Asset classes have soared. Like the valuation on asset classes is crazy. You talked a little earlier about just like unicorns, the number of unicorn companies out there. Like we've never seen anything like this. The value of homes, if you're a homeowner, your equity probably jumped pretty significantly in the past year. And if you look at it over like a 3-4 year period, it might have doubled or more. And that's huge. But also that's a giant barrier if you were a 17-year-old kid who had never owned a home. And you're like, when my parents bought a home, they were like $50,000, and then they grew to like $100,000, and so when I was a kid, that was kind of where the prices at. And now you look at some of those same homes that were selling, 35 years ago for $100,000, and they're $600,000 and $700,000 today.
Yeah.
And you think pay scales have not increased very much, but the cost of things has gotten ridiculous. And so we thought, like, number one, how do we build something that can benefit people, that can overcome some of these challenges that are inevitable at this point? And then the second thing was like, how do we do it in a way that feels inclusive to everybody and everybody has skin in the game? And so with the kind of advent of cryptocurrency, you have the ability to do that. Cryptocurrency is essentially an ownership of a project or a product or a company, is essentially what it is, that you can exchange digitally. And so it's kind of, in a lot of ways, the evolution of a stock market, but you can do it at a lot earlier stage. And traditionally, all of the growth or the majority of the growth happens in the early stages of a company. And, part of the reason is because when you're one employee and you get another employee, you just have 100% growth, right? And you've got you've got a lot of employees now. For you to get 100% growth, it takes a lot more work than it did to get that first employee. But the first employee was probably scarier and riskier because now you're not seeing all the work, and there's a lot of other things too that make it harder. But in terms of just the amount of energy that is expended in growing the business to double in the size that you are now versus to hire that first employee, the growth is just on a percentage basis much slower now than it was in the beginning. And so the cryptocurrency allows people to take advantage of that early stage growth as just a average person. It gives them kind of all the aspects of ownership, which traditionally, even with the stock market, you know, we all probably own some stock,
Sure.
and that stock isn't really ownership in that company. What it is, it's a claim against future profits. So you get some of the ownership of the profit side of things, but you don't get the other value of ownership. There are some social values to ownership, right? There are some governance and responsibility values that come with ownership that, as a founder, you see day in and day out. There's some pride when things grow of ownership, when you're actually the one building and actually the one helping make decisions and own it. And this is a way, like cryptocurrency is a way that gives people access to all aspects of ownership. Even with the smallest amount of investment, they can put in $1 and still have a vote as to what the company does and still add value to the company through things like security. The more tokens there are out there, the more secure the network is. And so every single person who takes part in adding value to the network actually gets to receive some value from the network. And so that's kind of the reason that we went the direction of Web3 and why we focused on community and why we focus specifically on finance.
So cool, man. Such a different way to approach all of these problems that that we're currently dealing with, in the U.S., but as a society as a whole, right? Certainly commend you for having vision and looking to solve problems in a very creative manner. I know we're running out of time here, but maybe just two last things. I know one of your big missions with Moonify is financial literacy. Maybe tell us just a little bit more about that, and then give us some thoughts on Cryptopia. I know you're going to be up here, as a panelist. So let's do that, and we'll round out the session.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I talked way too long. I know that. You can just be like, Garrett, shut up.
You're good. This
I will
has been
do it.
fascinating.
I will
So
do it.
yeah.
Yeah, so a little bit about financial literacy. Like that's our focus is finance, primarily in the investment side. What we learned is that, growing up and in high school and even in college and even after college, even as a founder, as a young founder, like finance was something that escaped me, right? Like it just wasn't, I was just not literate in it. And so I didn't know how to invest, how to find good investments, how to manage risk in particular, how to take enough risk to get some upside, but how to manage that risk so that it didn't kill me. And I learned most of that through either people that I met through social platforms or from people who are currently my partners, right? Like, so I had to learn that from somebody, and everybody has to learn that from somebody. And if you have a mentor, your likelihood of being successful just skyrockets in just about anything that you do, but finance and investment particularly. We really want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to be, financially literate. So that's kind of what our platform is focused on. One of the things that we're doing is, we saw what happened in Florida and some other places have done it. You had mentioned specifically that Park City also has some financial literacy programs in their high school. So what we did is we're like, we need to offer that free to any high school student because they deserve it, right? And so that's one of the things that we're doing is all of our content creators who are focused on financial literacy and helping people to understand and manage risk have offered to give that free to any high school student anywhere in the United States. And so we want to make sure that we share that, give them those opportunities, help them to learn, help them to manage their risk, help them also to learn to take risk, right? Because no risk, no reward. And so, but how to manage that so that it doesn't drown them. So that's one. Cryptopia was the other question I guess you asked. So I'm super excited for Cryptopia. I love speaking in these panels, and so we're going to be talking specifically about the creator economy. That's where our focus is, obviously, and you know how that kind of comes over and overlaps with the owner economy of Web3. And yeah, super excited to talk about that. We'll have some exciting news that we'll announce actually at Cryptopia. So another pretty cool thing.
Yeah,
So yeah, I can't wait. I'm super excited to actually hear 90 proof. I've
yeah,
heard
man.
like these little clips of 90 proof, but I've never
Yeah.
actually been through a full set or a full concert. So I'm super excited for that as well.
Cool, cool. We're gonna
So
party
I'm
together
really looking forward
for
for
sure.
sure, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, cool, Garrett. This has been a lot of fun. And by the way, uh, very noble of you and your founding team to work on financial literacy, especially for up and coming generations. It's so important. We never had that as kids, and yeah, I in my transition to adulthood, those first several years were pretty rough to figure that out, right, and begin to learn.
Yeah,
Any parents out there listening to this, Garrett and Moonify are launching here in May. Keep an eye out for that. And get your high school students on it, and get them into the curriculum, for
yeah.
financial literacy. Help them learn. Garrett, any parting thoughts before we wrap here?
Yeah, we talked kind of about the platform. One of the things that's really important for me too, like it is for you, is to also give back to young founders, new founders, or people thinking about founding. And so one of the things that I've talked about a lot with my team, but also with other teams that I've kind of tried to help along the way, what makes a good founder are really, in my opinion, two things. The first one is momentum, and the second one is grit. And you need momentum. You're never going to make it without it. Like you have to, but momentum you build. You build momentum. That's your job, is to build momentum. And that's based on product. That's based on customers. That's based on financing. That's based on all of the pieces of it. Like little by little, piece by piece, you got to build that momentum. And then the other side is grit. You gotta, when the days are hard and you just want to bury yourself in your pillow and cry at night. Sometimes you do, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes you
sure.
just actually bury yourself in the pillow and cry. Or, when you want to throw in the towel, or you just don't want to deal with that one customer that's driving you absolutely bonkers and you can't solve their problem. It's like you need that grit to get up and do it anyway. And so if you have those two things, you'll be successful.
Yeah, so important. Really, stick to itiveness. Really, just it's an art that you really can't teach. But most successful founders have it.
Yeah.
So, Garrett, again, thank you so much for joining me here on Tech Beat Bites today. It's been such a pleasure to have you. I look forward to seeing you and the Moonify team at Cryptopia on May
Yeah.
26th. We
Can't
thank
wait.
the crowd that's joined us, our guests that have joined us here this morning. Join us and come learn more about what Garrett and Moonify are doing at Cryptopia. Again, that is May 26th. You can get your tickets at cryptopiaslc.xyz. The Nexus IT discount code for 10% discount is Nexus22. All one word, all caps, Nexus22. Garrett, thank you again, my friend. We're going to sign off.
Earl, pleasure. Thank you. Have a great day.
See y'all.